I am continuing in my video series, Dynamics in Sicilian Positions, mainly pertaining to variations after pawn to e6. Pawn to e6. After d4, we have an open Sicilian, and this is followed by pawn to a6. Black can play knight c6 first, which transposes. Now let's get into the main ideas of this opening. But first, let's understand the move a6. The move a6 makes this a flexible variation that can transpose into the Scheveningen or Kahn variations, allowing black to adapt to white's setup. It specifically prepares queen c7 and controls the b5 square, preventing piece infiltration. And the other idea is to play a6 to not allow white to go into the Pelican Sicilian with knight b5 in order to exploit the d6 square. Now I know it may look counterintuitive for white to trade off his centralized knight for black's knight on c6, but there's a good idea behind it. White wants to play the move pawn to e5. Removing that knight on c6 makes this easier. And just like in the Sicilian, an overall goal for black is to play the pawn to d5. Now all you have to do at this point is continue developing, stay solid, or make concrete moves. So white just simply castles, and then after knight f6, then rook e1 is the traditional move. I personally happen to like rook e1 because it centralizes a rook and it keeps an eye on the pawn on e4. And another thing is bishop f4 and queen f3 are additional options which the engines prefer over rook e1. You're probably thinking that queen f3 keeps an eye on e4, but also to x-ray the pawn that's on c6, which in turn discourages black from going on with the plan of pushing the pawn on c6 to c5 and maybe to c4. Now, in order to prepare castling, black will decide where to place the dark square bishop. Bishop d6 and bishop e7 are two main options for black, but let's take a look at bishop d6. Should black try to be more active with the bishop to d6, then rook e1, rook to e1, which x-rays the uncastled king on e8. And should black play the queen to c7, and this is when you should definitely capture the d5 pawn. E takes d5, and after c takes d5, then knight takes d5. The pawn is pinned to the king, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, and white goes up a piece. Castle king side, don't take the rook or you'll be stuck with bishop b7. The move in its position is queen to h5, double attacking the pawn on h7 with the bishop on d3. Secondly, the queen on h5 also guards the pawn on h2, which is being double attacked. Okay, back to the position. Bishop e7 instead. And after bishop e7, pawn to e5 now, knight d7. And now queen to g3 in order to protect the pawn. And not only is the queen holding the pawn on e5, but also attacks the pawn on g7. King f8 and g6 are two main options for black. But we're going to take a look at g6 first. So should black play the pawn to g6 instead, then your move is to play bishop h6. Now the usual normal reply by black is queen b6, pressuring the b2 pawn, but that's no problem. You can just follow up with knight to e2 with the plan of sliding a rook over to b1. But if king moves to f8 instead, defending the pawn, then knight e2, and your plan is to place the knight on d4, and you want to exploit black's light square pawns. And lastly, there are tactical ideas for white as far as a potential sacrifice of the knight on e6. But it's just something to keep in mind. Thank you. That's all I have. Don't forget to hit that like button and stay tuned.